The Punisher is a very, very sad man. When we're first introduced to him in Daredevil Season 2, he had 3 distinct phases. First, he's an antagonist.
No, him.
Then he becomes the fracture point for Matt's relationship with Elektra and Foggy, and finally, he becomes a POV character when he's thrown into prison and manipulated by Willie Fisk. Because Willie knows Frank can't help himself, and before the story ends, he even kills his old army buddies who were involved in his family's murder despite Karen's protests.
Frank! You do this and you are the monster that they say you are, do you hear me?
Frank Castle is a man destined to undo any progress made in his recovery because he can't stop picking at his wounds.
I'm already dead.
However, is he actually in a state of trauma? Castle explicitly rejects this assessment himself.
PTSD, huh? Don't do that. It's an insult. It wasn't on a battlefield.
But he does exhibit the most important symptom, the inability to access his memories due to pain. As Freud once said, the patient cannot remember the whole of what is repressed in him, and what he cannot remember may be precisely the essential part of it.
How much can you remember?
It goes in and out. I heard it. And I didn't do anything.
Subsequently, the 2 seasons of The Punisher deals with this question in 2 very different ways. So let's dive in, as we always do, and talk about trauma, motherfucker.
I like pancakes. I do. I really like pancakes. I'm on my way.
Season 1 begins with Frank finishing off the last of the crime families in New York that were involved in his family's death. So he's retired as a construction worker. By the way, get used to Frank constantly retiring just after he's become the Punisher. 6 months later, he always wakes up at 3 AM every morning by dreams of his family.
It's plenty of time now that you're home.
He's a family man with no family himself. As Tentamar, Mulasari, Tsukasai, and Hariono argued, there's 4 types of PTSD symptoms. 1. Life returning / re-experiencing. 2. Avoidance. 3. Emotional numbness. And 4. A feeling of tension. Frank exhibits all of these qualities as a construction worker who's isolated and spends all of his time smashing concrete.
Because of you, we're getting less overtime.
However, there is one person he opens up to, Curtis Hoyle, an army mate who runs a support group. Therefore, the soldier part of Frank is still alive.
Happy. Happy's a kick in the balls waiting to happen.
So you kick yourself in the balls first.
It's the only thing inside him that allows him to process any new experience, to the extent that when he chats with one of his co-workers, he's good with talking about soldier stuff but can't with his family.
My pa was in the Corps. Yeah, and the 1-2 down in North Carolina. He was like a superhero to me or something.
But his memories as a soldier is no home, but a filthy, secretive place, because he was part of an illegal kill squad, which Homeland agent Dina Madani investigates.
The US government gave Ahmed Zubair our word, and it got him killed.
Castle then gets lured in by Lieberman, an ex-NSA analyst who had a video of Frank shooting Zubair. A policeman discovered that this unit was funded by illegally smuggling heroin into the US. He followed his conscience and sent it to Madani and is now a fugitive. So now Frank, who didn't know the truth, joins in to search for it.
He died.
Yeah, I can live with that.
As a result, much to a lot of people's surprise, Season 1 is a fucking slow military conspiracy thriller as opposed to an urban vigilante show about a man's war on crime like Daredevil.
No deals. No guarantees.
Therefore, a lot of people didn't like it, and a lot of people did, because it kind of depends on how much you like this very specific genre. For me, I liked it. I'm a massive Garth Ennis fan, so I adored how it's kind of in tune with the latter half of his Max run, where it's not just about Frank as a person, but what he represents in terms of dealing with the dirty side of American war crimes after 9/11.
And I really liked writing The Punisher, and I thought, why not just stick on it?
Yeah, right.
And then 9/11 happened, and I had a totally different view of the world all of a sudden, or perhaps I'd had a view of the world that I hadn't really want to acknowledge confirmed for me. And I thought, with The Punisher, I have the perfect character to look at the world and how it's now being viewed and what it's become. Yeah.
Consequently, Frank's trauma thematically becomes a double entendre. As he uncovers the conspiracy, he begins to regain access to the past and cleans America. Furthermore, the main bad guy is Frank's old BFF, Billy Russo, an army bro who was abandoned at birth. So under his charm is an insecure, cold resentment towards people.
You know, I'd have given you the world. I'd have given you anything that you ever wanted if you just wanted me.
There was this Good Samaritan used to volunteer at the Ray of Hope group home. That's where I was placed at the time. I guess I must have been 10. When a grown man tells you that you're pretty, you know nothing good is coming. Unless you say I wasn't interested in it. So I went after him with the stickball bat. Caught him good a couple of times too. And then he broke my arm.
Never stop and think about how lucky I was, you know. Old man was at every single game I played at, every single one. I wish you had that.
This guy's, he's maybe the only real friend that I ever had. And I think that he wants to take away everything that I've worked so hard for all these years.
But you knew about it, didn't you?
Yeah.
His trauma has stripped away a piece of his identity, so for his entire life, he only sees what he isn't. A son with no parents, no family that cares for him. Therefore, he doesn't care for his connections. He manipulates Madani, was in on the Cerberus illegal stuff. He fucking lets Frank's family die despite knowing the hit, and runs a private military force that does illegal stuff. By the way, I fucking love Ben Barnes in this role. I think he's completely underrated, because he's got a real insane delicate balance between being both slimy and yet convincingly charming.
You got plans? Yeah, I got some plans.
Therefore, in a poetic way, Frank and Billy kind of mirrors each other. They're dudes in need of connections, as exemplified by how Frank spends time with Lieberman's family.
Hey.
But they both end up forfeiting the opportunity to embrace the newly created connections because they're set in their ways. They can't imagine a future that includes anyone because they're scared to. Their trauma has orientated them backwards, so their futures are decided by a constant returning / re-experiencing a painful past, a singular memory. However, in their fight with each other, closure is found.
You know, you two are almost exactly alike. It's just one difference. Frank would never betray a brother.
Frank ends up confessing everything to Madani and trades himself for Lieberman's family when the time comes, because they're kidnapped at one point. He's tortured, but Russo and the Cerberus guy's relationship hits a dead end, so he frees Frank secretly. Castle is near death, and he can die and reunite with his wife.
I'm gonna stay. I'm done.
But he doesn't. He lets her go and kills again. He beats Russo at the carousel where they once shared a loving memory, where his family died. He tortures him and his mind forever. Madani gives Frank a new chance for life, a new identity. Lieberman is released with his family, who prepares for a seat for Frank, but he doesn't come. Instead, he joins Hoyle's support group. The family man is gone. All that's left is the soldier, all cleaned up, ready to fill the gap and march on.
Yeah.
It's time. You're safe here, Frank. We keep each other's secrets.
First time as long as I can remember I don't have a war to fight. I'm gonna be honest, I'm scared.
To live and to stop avoiding life. Thus, the Punisher persona in hindsight was either the wound at its most raw or merely an ephemeral band-aid, used and thrown away. Either way, it's a dream state Frank has awoken. But will he stay awake or fall back asleep?
Alright, let's do this.
David, I'm not coming. You know why I can't.
Season 2 is very, very, very messy. It felt like they wanted to address the slowness of the first season, so they made it into 2 ongoing storylines about 2 different manhunts, but they never converge, so there's no real sense of overarching escalation. Frank also doesn't really seem to be interested in anything, he's just f***ing around basically.
You're still here?
But one could argue that's the key to understanding it. You could say the structure of the season mirrors where he is in his recovery. According to scholars Neverd, Rathus and Green, post-traumatic stress disorder is an ongoing maladaptive reaction. Maladaptive behaviors are those that stop you from adapting to new or difficult circumstances. Therefore, it's inherently unproductive. Season 2 on a macro level is effectively about how hard it is to be invested in something new during the struggle to rebuild. We begin with Frank as a simple, chill dude who hangs out in country bars and hooks up with a bartender while having a very bro-looking haircut. He's happy but also feels like an untethered balloon, just floating through the motions.
We're all lonely. All life is just trying not to be.
But then he encounters young Amy, a runaway that crossed the wrong people, so Frank must become her protector. Yes, it's very, very cliched, but they've got good chemistry, so I didn't mind it. And like Lieberman, she draws out what Frank could be. In this case, not just an honorable soldier, but a good father. Although she also gives him the opportunity to be a sadist again, while under the guise of his dutiful code.
If you go to your friend, she's as good as dead.
Then what?
Sometimes, kid, you gotta fight. You take the fight to them.
Therefore, he'll often oscillate between being genuinely fatherly and screaming out of violent frustration with no patience. Similarly, Billy Russo's memories are literally like a jigsaw. Clever, innit? So he'll be a confused puppy one moment, then his old Machiavellian self again.
I might have love for you.
While Madani now resembles Frank, as her idealism is displaced by an obsessive need for revenge.
Maybe you moved on with Frank. Maybe you got closure. Good for you.
For Christ's sake, you know what? Now that you had the shot, you didn't take it. What do you want from me?
Along the way, there's also a dude called John Pilgrim who's after Amy, and he's alright, I guess.
Get out. Go. Get out.
The pattern shared by everyone is that they're all uninterested in adapting to their new freedoms, and yet they don't want to return to their old selves. They're just lost and trapped in an amnesiac state, directionless in an overlap between the past and the present, surviving but never living. People who can't imagine their futures and are constantly victim to resurfacing pain. For Frank, his only guide is his sense of duty. That's it. So Russo and his lover/psychotherapist, Dr. Dumont, hatches a plan to use his sense of moral superiority against him by making it look like he shot up a bunch of innocent women during his attack. Oh my god!
They were dead before you met Frank, okay? Billy set you up.
Next episode, Frank just finds out and he gets over it pretty quickly.
Once you get those keys, you get these cuffs off me, I'm gonna go take care of it.
Frank, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, okay?
It's very weird that one of the best ideas for the season is used and thrown away, like a used baby wipe. But this is also Karen Page's guest episode. The woman who accessed his past even when he couldn't.
Why did you ask me to stay?
I guess I worry that the memories are just gonna go away.
Mr. Castle,
Look, you were in my house.
you never went back.
And opened a path from long ago. But just as before, Frank refuses to walk it, and she's heartbroken. Their final moment directly mirrors their introduction.
And Karen, I can't tell you how much it means to me that you came here. You sat with me.
So make it mean something.
Frank in the hospital bed, Karen stands over him, and once again, he's a fresh man mourning his failures and rediscovering meaning with his violent duty.
So I'm gonna go and find them, and I'm gonna kill them. I'm gonna murder them, Karen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that to keep her alive, because that's my life. That's what I do. You wanna be a part of that?
So in his own way, he's correcting the past by using the present as raw material. The key here is that Frank uses the eyes of a soldier to live life without his family.
Move on, live your life, right?
Because it's the only useful part of him that gives him any ability to live for a future. Therefore, there's no room for him to be a father. Madani fights Dumont, leading to Russo getting wounded. Amy is captured. Castle wins against Pilgrim, but they form an alliance. Russo's dodgy surgery fails, and he's scammed, so he calls Hoyle with hopes that someone will be with him before he dies. However, Frank appears and just executes him before they even reconnect. That chapter is closed. Frank should have killed him before, so he does so now, and this lesson is more convincing than the one given by Amy. So after he saves her, they separate. 3 months later, Madani works for the CIA, while Castle resumes his activities as the Punisher.
Already got a job, Madani. You take care.
The final image we see of Disney, Marvel's, Netflix's Punisher is him mowing down some punks during an illegal deal. His story ends on a loop. The dude who wiped out all the crime families involved in his family's death is now on a never-ending war on all of crime. Where season 1 was Frank's nightmare, season 2 was his dream. A moment where he got to be free, but he realized that's not who he is. Is Frank in a state of trauma? Earlier I would have said no, but upon close inspection, it's more complicated because his psychology lives in a blur between agency and inability. Frank lets everyone go, not because he can't adapt, but because they don't fit the story he wants to write for himself, which is a narrative of duty. The only surviving logic from his soldier days. Frank can't not feel like he failed his family, so redemption comes from him not failing others. So to kill is to serve this theme, to appropriate his pain into a continuity that allows him to project a future for himself. As a result, it's important for him to say that he's not traumatized for the reason that it lets him believe he's not crazy, that he still can hold accountability for his own actions as a protector and more importantly as a soldier, even when it's clinically unfair for him to hold himself in such a way. He exists within a psychological paradox. So whatever the MCU chooses to do with him, and please bring him back, Frank's inability to heal due to him scratching the wound with his own self-made bandage is what makes him him.
There's no light at the end of the road, Karen. There's no light.
There could be if you let it.
No.
You could choose. You could just love
I don't
someone
want that. I can't do
someone
that.
else instead of another war.
See, what worries me the most is that you've been in a hole so long that it's become home.
I don't want to. Maybe that's where I'm supposed to be.
All that's left is to decide how you die, easy or hard. That's a choice.
Bill, the worst things than dying, Bill. I wake up most mornings and I want it. I hope for it. I pull the trigger on my wife, on my son, my baby girl.
No, I wasn't there. If I was, you'd be in the ground because I wouldn't have missed it.
My job was to keep him safe. I didn't.
See, whatever it is that you wanted him to live with, you knocked it clean out of his head. And that's the irony. See, now everybody but him has to live with what he did.
It's a better you. There's nothing left to hurt you, and here you stand.
That kid needs me to stay alive. All right, if Madani, she's bad shit and lost his eyes.
Names, places, anything I can use to find him.
Yeah, I would have thought you knew better by now, Madani. This shit never ends. The only thing that matters here is that my shit, my issues, they won't come to your front door. You know, and that's...
So, what, he's exempt because of some archaic idea of chivalry?
No, he is exempt because if Frank ever did the things Billy has done, he would feel like he is burning in hell.
And what you did too, Frank, you should have put him down for good.
Everybody wants to be somebody else.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that you care?
Nobody is happy just to look at themselves in the mirror and see themselves.
It's like a knot. We need to work at it. We need to break it down so it stops getting in your way.
Then it means they don't have to be responsible either.
Pete Castiglione is a free man.
So what about you, Frank? What is it going to take to make you happy?
To know you before you faded away. I got to know you, got to love you. Just keep walking down.
So yeah, this was the Punisher video, which was actually planned for Halloween 2021. Yes, that long ago. But this video ended up becoming a total nightmare to make. I finished 3 complete versions of this, but something would always be off that I just strongly disliked. From voiceover issues, to the music being really boring, to me over-explaining simple things that happen in the show. This final version is designed to be as well-paced and as easy to follow as possible, with as much jargon removed while still preserving the academic references. series. Anyways, currently this is the last of the 20+ minute trauma study recap formats. I'm still gonna do Iron Fist and Luke Cage to round out the Marvel Netflix stuff, but they'll be under a completely different lens. I'm sure trauma will come back in some shape or form, probably with Batman or something, but I kinda wanna just have fun right now and study other stuff like surveillance theory and dissociative personality disorder. Regardless, special thanks to my patrons for funding my bullshit despite all the delays and such. I love you all so very much, and commentary tracks are coming soon.
Escaping your pain now. You break down. You're drained now. Your heart pounds. Your lips move. Your eyes shine.
I miss sex. Yeah, it's good to know, buddy. You wanna hear something funny? What's that? I'm hung like a moose. Jesus Christ.